There's a pattern that I always see with high achieving women, high masking autistic women, type A women, women who are very logical and strategic, and they're high earners. I noticed that they're secretly very, very creative. They thrive in artistic environments. They can either dance, sing, they can draw, design, something creative, but it's stifled because somewhere along the line, they were conditioned to believe that being creative isn't sustainable enough to provide. And oftentimes, like that graph that I created, I'm going to always refer back to that graph because it's so true. It shows the connection between all those people, those groups of people, is complex PTSD. If you've experienced complex PTSD, it inadvertently puts you in a state of being in survival mode. So when you're in survival mode, you're going to do everything that you need to do to be efficient, to be the best, to survive, right? And so in this society, in the systems that we live in, creativity historically has not been associated with being affluent, with being provided for. So I find that a lot of type A strategic planners, high achievers, high earners, and high masking autistic women, they go into logic mode, strategy mode, and they climb up the chain in corporate America and they make sure that they're making the most amount of money. They're being the best at everything that they can do. But the thing about it, the other side of that is your creative passions, that is tied to your authenticity before you had to be in survival mode. And that is how you walk in alignment. When you tie what you do and how you show up to your creative endeavors. And that is not even just for those groups of women I just described. It's for anybody. When we're being creative and our most authentic self, that's when we're walking in alignment. That's how you avoid burning out. That is how you create a life that is rooted in you just existing. Because you're not having to perform. You're not having to work hard. You're not having to constantly plan and lead and go so hard all the time. You get to just exist and do what you love. And that ideology, that's the foundation of soul activation. That is what I do with my clients. We get back to the root of who they are outside of survival, outside of complex PTSD, outside of having to always prove and be perfect and be efficient. And I use an intersectional lens because there are different things. It's not just complex PTSD. There's things like racial weathering, depending on where you grow up, structural racism, oppression, patriarchy, a whole lot of stuff, capitalism. There's a lot of conditioning that happens to us outside of complex PTSD. When you add complex PTSD, that adds another layer and there's more things to work through.